Yeah, James, whenever you're ready, you start playing.
Well, because of the nature of the day that is today and the nature of the day that is tomorrow, and this week, the first song I'm going to do is actually an oral. A hungry feeling came o'er me stealing, and the mice were squealing in my prison cell. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. To begin the morning, the screw was bawling, "Get up, ye bowsies, and clean up your cell." And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. The lags were sleeping, Humpy Gussie was creeping, as I lay there weeping for my girl Sal. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. Up in the female prison there are 75 women. 'Tis amongst
Oh, God.
them I wish I did dwell. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. All along the banks of the Royal Canal. The old triangle, that's actually taken from their German show. They did some fabulous German shows, and I actually met somebody who was at the show where that was recorded, which was kind of interesting. So my next tune, forgive me, is going to be the uke is going to disappear in the background, but there we go. This was originally written by Prince in 1989, and he did it for a group, a side business side event called Family, but it was done then by Sinead O'Connor, who released it in 1989, and it was a big hit in 1990. And it's my own interpretation. It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want. I can see whoever I choose. I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant. But nothing, I said, nothing can take away these blues. 'Cause nothing compares to you. It's been so lonely without you here, like a bird without a song. Oh, nothing can stop these lonely tears from falling. Tell me, baby, where did I go wrong? I could put my arms around every boy I see, but they only remind me of you. I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? Guess what he told me? He said, girl, you better try to have fun no matter what you do. But he's a fool, 'cause nothing compares to you. It's been so lonely without you here, like a bird without a song. It's been so lonely without you here, like a bird without a song. All the flowers that you planted, Mama, in the backyard, all died when you went away. I know that living with you, baby, was sometimes hard, but I'm willing to give you another try, 'cause nothing compares to you. 'Cause nothing compares to you. I think I can switch around. I think I can pull out a little tenor. It's about 7:05. I've no idea how many people are in the room. Forgive me for distracting you and entertaining you, but I shall give you a second to...
We have 17 people in the room, James.
So, this is a long song, so I think this will be a song before we go to main portion of the evening. That's all right. So I always start this too fast. I have to slow down dramatically. Have you heard of Phil the flute from the town of Ballymuck? The times were going hard with him, in fact he was quite pro. He just sent out a notice to the neighbours, one and all, as to how he'd like their company that evening at a ball. And when writing out, he was careful to suggest to them that if they found a hat of his convenient at the door, the more they put in whenever he requested them, the better would be the music for the batter in the floor, where the toot on the flute and a twiddle on the fiddle, hopping in the middle like a heron on the griddle, up, down, hands around, across into the wall. Oh, hadn't we a gaiety if Phil the fluter's ball? There was Miss Dennis Doherty who kept the running dog. There was little Crooked Patty from the Terrellini bog. There was boys from every barony and girls from every yard, and the beautiful Miss Brady in her private Aston cart. And along with them came Fancy Mrs. Cafferty. Little Mickey Mulligan was also to the fore. Rose, Suzanne, Margaret Rafferty, the flower of Armagill and the pride of Perthmore. Oh, with the toot on the flute and the twiddle on the fiddle, oh, hopping in the middle like a heron on the griddle, oh, up, down, hands around, across into the wall. Oh, hadn't we the gaiety if Phil the fluter's ball? First little Mickey Mulligan got up to show them how, and then the way the Cafferty sits out and makes a bow. We dance you off your legs to see you sure as you were born, if you'll only make the pipe pay the hair was in the corn. So a fiddle, oh, hopping in the middle like a heron on the griddle, oh, up, down, hands around across into the wall. Oh, hand me the gaiety, and fiddle the fluters ball. Oh, hand me the gaiety, and fiddle the fluters ball. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you so much, James. You're brilliant. Thank you for reading it. I will hear a little bit from James later on as we go through. First of all, thank you all for coming. I know it's a Monday night and it's an online virtual book launch. Try to pretend that we're in a really cool bar somewhere, or maybe a really cool bookshop. We all have lovely glasses of something really nice, preferably champagne or whatever your favorite tipple is. And we're not online on the Zoom call, but it is what it is. And thank you so much for turning out, and thank you so much for logging in, and thank you for your support, mainly, because I don't think any little book has ever been launched with more good wishes and support and encouragement, and it means the world. So thank you all so much. And a huge thank you to James, who has turned up here to play for us. And I'm sure you'd all agree that that was the best way to start this off. And I want to say a huge welcome and thank you to Says Thomason, who is one of my favorite people and one of my favorite creators and one of my favorite poets. Now we're waiting for Maureen, who is an amazing player and performer as well, and poet, but she's having a little trouble logging in. So we're just going to actually have a little chat. See, Says, hiya.
Yep, that's fine.
You're having a chat with me now. So I was talking to you online before about this, before the thing about the, I write in a corner. I hide in a corner and I write. And then if I have to put anything out into the world, I kind of throw it out the front door, shut the front door, and then I run away and pretend it has nothing whatsoever to do with me. You actually get up and perform your work. And I know that you have the big poetry slam final coming up on March 28th.
Yes, the Poetry at Your Place has been an amazing online poetry community through the pandemic, and yeah, it's the final of the slams that they've been doing. So I have to get up at 7:30 in the morning for that one because it's in New Zealand. But
you do this, you perform at things like that, you host things like that.
Yeah.
Are you never terrified? Or are you always terrified and you do it anyway? How do you do it?
I like to call it extreme sports for the introverted, because it's an adrenaline rush. Like, yeah, it's terrifying, but it's terrifying in a really fun way. And once the first time you do it, it's absolutely terrifying. But I think the cure for being so scared that, sorry, you can probably hear motorbikes going by outside, being so scared you think you're going to die, is for something to go horribly wrong when you're performing, because nothing bad happens. Everyone's nice, it's fine. Like, the worst thing that's happened to me on stage, I don't know, a bad thing that's happened to me on stage is getting to the final of a really important slam in Newcastle, the Great Northern Slam, doing really well, got to the last, it was head to head, and I got to the last round, and the person I was up against went first, and then I was like, oh, should I do this poem? Should I do that poem? I've got two that I might do, and I got lost in a combination of the two of them, and I absolutely screwed this poem. It just went, there's like, I literally had to just go, I'm sorry, I don't remember the rest of this. To like a massive theatre full of people, like it, and it would have been nice to win. I might not have won anyway. It was fine. People teased me a bit afterwards. It was all good. And so that's not a fear anymore, because I know what happens when that happens. It's not like you get kicked out of the poetry scene, never to do it again. You just go, oh, right, I shouldn't have two poems in my head when I've got a final slam round coming up. I should pick one at the beginning and stick to it. But I know that now. And I also know that if it goes wrong again, it'll be fine.
You're very brave. You're underplaying how brave that is, to be honest with you. Just like, yeah, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake.
Just make mistakes. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, also, like as a lot of my poetry talks about, I'm autistic, and having a conversation in a social situation is at least as terrifying as that. And I've learned how to do that, so obviously I can do this. Like, it's not a natural thing for me to do, and I've had to learn it. And know that I'm much more likely to offend somebody, or like by misreading something that they've said, or not gauging what the socially appropriate thing to say is. And instead of people going, oh, it says you're so kooky, they actually get offended. That's much more likely to happen in a normal conversation than it is when I'm doing a poem on a stage. Because if you do a poem, no one's going to say if they didn't understand it. They're just going to be just going to clap.
Mark will tell you if he doesn't understand it, because to me he just goes over the head.
Or they'll give you a lot more leeway of like, oh, well, it's an artistic interpretation and it's not my thing, but it's art, it's fine. If you're having a conversation, a lot more can go wrong than if you're performing.
This is true. Doesn't help, but I have to say I still am in awe, because like I would not, you do it from memory. Like, I need the thing I've written in front of me. Like, if I write a poem and I have to say it, I need it in front of me. It doesn't matter. I couldn't memorize my own stuff, never mind anyone else's. It's just.
Yeah, I sometimes read. I'm going to read. I'm not going to have it memorized, the thing I'm doing today, because I wrote it yesterday. But if I get on stage with a piece of paper, it's my phone, I will be like this through the whole.
Yeah.
And I won't engage with the audience. And also, if I know I've got it, I will start doubting myself about whether I really know it or not. I've been known to like forget a poem and wing it and just make up a little bit of it. It's my poem.
Jazz poetry.
Nobody can say I got it wrong.
Poetry, yes. James, you're a reluctant soloist. That's his actual YouTube moniker for his channel is The Reluctant Soloist. Yes. And I have watched you over the years push yourself to go forward and sing. And I'd say lots of the people who are online here tonight who in the crowd know you from the Ukulele Tuesdays. They know you have to be pushed to sing. Yes. Don't you be sitting there all smug at me.
Well, I have a similar horror story in my late teens where I was due to go on stage as Oberon in a late teen production. And the very first scene where Oberon walks on, everything fell out of the back of my head. Every single word, the play, the author. I was at a room full of faces going back at me. And I could hear the prompt at the behind the curtain at the back. And so I just went all the way back to backstage, and they recited the words in, and I just regurgitated the words out. And that was in front of everybody I knew. And that was the end of my acting career, which was where the reluctant soloist came from. It was going to be even worse. I was going to be the reluctant soloists. So we were going to be performing as two soloists, but the play on words were lost. He was more reluctant than I was, and so
you bet your match.
I was 3 years playing before I was able to overcome my mic fear, and was tricked into going up to sing along, and then the mic was just put fully in front of me. Yeah. And so you have to overcome that barrier. And it says you're right. Everybody is so nice. When you overcome that barrier, when things go wrong, people couldn't be nicer. You don't get people saying, "Oh, you died. Oh, you were terrible." They're not. They said, "Oh, you were fantastic." My mother's best one is when I perform a song for her. She says, "You know, your pronunciation was excellent. I could hear every word." It's like, that's a compliment with knuckles in it. You're not singing well, you're not playing well, but I could understand what you said.
Yeah. I know. It's like writing something and someone goes, "Yeah, it had a lot of words. It was yeah, wow." And you just know that they're thinking, "How do I do this? I don't know how to say. I've no idea what it was about, or I didn't like it, or yeah."
It's a real page turner. Well, thank you for understanding the function of books.
Oi, when you write a novel and someone calls it a page turner, I'll take that. That's okay. It's like,
okay, that's fine.
No, what you don't want is someone saying, I couldn't bother turning the page. That's where we draw the line there. And it says, "I know your book of poetry, and I love it. The schematics, well, I'm getting the name wrong, but the Roman remains.
Terrible plans of how Roman made drains. No,
Thank you.
I got historical plans of how Roman made drains. I got my own book wrong.
That's right. And the thing is, I was only looking at it earlier today, and I was going, like, do you find that different? Do you find there's a difference between performing on stage and getting up there and doing a poem and putting them into a book and sending it out kind of into the universe for people to have a look at? Is there a fresh hell there?
Yeah, I'm much more comfortable with the immediacy of performing, because if it goes wrong, I know straight away.
Yeah.
If I put it in a book and people have read it, I have no idea what they think of it. So unless they choose to tell me,
You're kind of stuck.
I don't, like, I know which of my poems work on stage and I know which don't. Like, because I've tested that. And when I get a new poem, that's quite nerve-wracking, because I don't know how it's going to go over on stage. But when I put stuff into print, I'm like, maybe what's good about my poetry is the way I perform it, and it's not going to translate to the page, and you just don't know. So it's a much more scary thing to me to put a book out than it is to get up on a stage.
Yeah.
Have you had that elusive spotting your own book in the wild experience yet?
Not as sort of. Somebody
of the train or something.
Somebody at an open mic night where people read other people's stuff that was online. Like I was at work and my name got tagged in a Facebook thing, and somebody was reading one of my poems at this thing, and they had my book, and it was in Australia, and I was like, I know how like ordering things online works, but I was like, how did my book get to Australia?
That counts. Yeah,
that was quite fun.
That's cool. It's ahead of you, Geraldine. Ahead of you, Ger.
Yeah, hopefully.
And it doesn't count if you just leave them on the counter in Charlesburn and people pick them up.
It counts. It counts. Like, does it count if you're up to random people in public and go, read my book? Read my book. That counts too, you know.
We've done that. We've done that.
Yeah, that's marketing. That's okay.
Do you remember when they used to do World Book Night where people gave out paperback books?
Yes.
Yeah, I did that for like a couple of years, and what you were supposed to do was try and get the books out to people who wouldn't normally read the books. So a lot of people did stuff at bookshops, and I was like, well, that's pointless. So I did it in the pub, and I had the book Fingersmith by Sarah Waters, which is quite a steamy.
It is a nice one, yeah.
Lesbian crime thriller. But because I was giving out free books, everyone was convinced that I was from some religion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because people who give out books and be like, no, it's free, you can have it, usually turns out to be some kind of religious tract or free Hare Krishna book or free Bible. And I was like, no, it's really not. It's filthy, I promise you.
You'll enjoy it. It's good.
Yeah, it won't like do you any favors in the church, but like yeah, but people were like, no, I don't want to talk to you, no, I'm not religious. I was like, it's a book about Victorian lesbians and crime syndicates. I don't know what to tell you.
I know we've actually someone in the audience, Ita Ryan, who wrote books. She's a past alumni of the PPP as well, who wrote a very good book called IT Can Be Murder, and she is out there. IT, you there, love? I think she's hiding.
She's just coming on now.
Hello, can you hear me? My internet is really terrible.
There we are. Ita, join in.
I'm calling you right now. Yeah, can you see me?
I can see you.
We can see a tree.
Yeah, you appear to be a tree, but you can see that tree.
Really, I'm not familiar with this
Zoom thing.
Well, yeah, with Zoom I am, but not with it's a kind of a conference thing or something, is it? So,
it's the webinar. Yeah, it's not quite like the meetings, but
yeah, so I can't see where
we're having a few teething problems as well, but sure, it's all for fun. It's all grand. Very there. You've written a book and you've had it out there, and how do you feel about the terror of creating things?
Oh, I mean, I remember pressing send, and the first thing I did was I put it up on Kindle. And I remember pressing send on Kindle and going, oh my God, I've just made the worst mistake of my whole life. Everybody's going to know how shallow I am when they read this book. And now I'm doing a PhD, and I presented my two supervisors, who are, one is a professor and one is a doctor or something or other of software engineering, with copies of my novel, in which, because I wrote it quite a long time ago, a lot of the characters are, you know, the younger protagonist comments adversely on people being bald and stuff like that, which, like, everybody I know now is bald. I'm pretty bald myself, so that's, you know, it's just exactly endear me to my supervisors. They haven't mentioned it since I gave it to them at Christmas last year, so they've had it for like 14 months. But it was a lot of fun. I reread it when I gave it to them, and since I had published it in 2014, I hadn't read it again. And I was actually really pleased. I thought, well, it still makes me laugh, and you know, I still felt that I had done a reasonable job. And I always thought, well, you know, I'm not going to leave it under the stairs in a manuscript. I'm just going to get it out there, and, you know, even if I never write another thing, at least I wouldn't have wasted all of that time. So, you know, and fair play to you, Ger. It's no easy job. Like, it's a lot of work, and I'm delighted to see you do the same.
Yeah, well, like yourself, it was a thing of, I did it, it was there, and thanks to being pushed a lot by people, I will say as well, I actually went, well, you either leave it there and you do nothing with it, or you take a chance and you put it out there and do it and say you did it. You know what I mean? And whatever happens after that it's out of your control to a large degree. I will say though,
it is a lot of fun.
I had started writing it originally for NaNoWriMo. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but it's a month in November where you try and write a novel. And I always did that before I had kids, and I had so much fun doing it. But this was the one I liked the best and always intended to do something with. But when I went back to it years later to do something with it, I was shocked by how radically some of my commentaries and views had changed. And there are, yeah, the descriptions of people that I just thrown in there because it sounded funny, that I just stripped out because I was going, no, don't find that so funny anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I realized,
strange,
yeah, I hadn't expected it, because it wasn't 20 years, it wasn't 10 years, it was, you know, 7 or 8 years, and it was, oh my God, like, what was it? Hello.
Here's Maureen.
Guess what? I don't know what happened, but it finally worked.
Everybody say hi to Maureen Ashling Duffy Booth, who has traversed time and space and technology to get on today. So now make sure you've got your video sharing on.
Well, I guess maybe because I'm a poet, maybe I can't also be an engineer or mechanic who does stuff right.
Yeah.
That's why I married the woman I married, because she is an engineer and she's got a left brain and I don't.
That's it. I have Mark. That's literally how our television gets turned on in this house, as I ask Mark. There you are. How are you?
Awake, upright, vertical, not horizontal. I'm really excited for this. Congratulations on your book, Sharon. And it's wonderful to meet you, Sharon. I'm going to get to know you better. And let's get started, because I've kept things going way too long. You all have my apologies forever.
We have been sitting here nattering, and that's no problem whatsoever. We were talking about, I was saying how much I admire yourself, and says for performing, for actually getting out there and doing your poetry and your music and your creativity in front of people. And that's why I asked you both to be here, is because, like, I don't do that, and I absolutely admire it in the pair of you.
I'm not sure. I like to be out in public. I do not mind getting up and reading poetry, or getting up and showing my art, or I play the harp in public quite a lot. But when I'm actually there doing it, in my mind, I'm kind of freaking out. And I'm kind of going, I wonder if they like this. Oh, I'm making a mistake. Oh, what do I do now? And it is a wonderful thing for me to get the opportunity and the option to do that. But at this point in time, it's also a wonderful thing when it's over and I can take a deep breath and my wife says, that wasn't too bad. You did a pretty good job. And it's like, oh, thank God.
Well,
So, yeah, I agree with the whole idea of it. It's a little scary sometimes, and you just sort of have to deal.
and get it done. That's, well, I was hoping that Says would kick us off by reading something, and then perhaps, Martin, I know you have something lovely you're going to sing for us, a lovely poem. So if we could start with Says, would that be okay?
Yeah, that would be fine. I'm going to read you a brand.
Hang on, Says.
Hello. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, that was me.
Yeah, we played mute tennis for a second there.
That was me.
I think we pressed the button at the same time. So this is a poem I've written today. I actually do something every year. This is the 10th year of me doing it, which means I have a ridiculous number of poems. I write 100 poems for 100, like a poem a day for 100 days. And what that means is that I end up with poems of varying quality, but it keeps me writing and also gets me writing in like ways I might not normally write. And I've decided to do 100 monsters this year. And somebody suggested that I do a local to Sheffield, where I live, monster. And there's already a poem about him. He is the Dragon of Wantley. And there is a satirical, like, broadside poem, which I decided to reply to because it's not very flattering to the dragon. So I've tried to write it in the same style as the original, which is called The Dragon of Wantley, which means there are some really usually unforgivable rhymes in there, but that's only because I was copying the original. This is The Dragon of Dragon of Wantley, an alternative perspective. You sing the praises of St. George and how he slew a dragon. You'd think sending my kind extinct was something you could brag on. And Hercules killed one of us, poor persecuted creatures. In stories told by humankind, our genocide off features. Though I've been clean forgot about, I never let it haunt me. But if you'd like, I'll tell my tale, the dragon killed at Wantley. A mighty beast I was, although the story was inflated. I was, of course, no Trojan horse, that bit's exaggerated. They said I swallowed sheep and cows, and, well, perhaps I did. Though I am sure a carnivore, I never ate no kids. And all the dreadful things they said about my sinus issues. But have you heard of such a thing as flame retardant tissues? More of Moor Hall, by gum, of all the sneaky little blighters. St. George and Hercules at least were honourable fighters. But this young toff, how he'd sound off about his skill and prowess when all he ever seemed to do was blether on for hours. Some farmers who were quite upset because I'd ate their cattle started a proper smear campaign and more believed their tattle. He'd take no gold from them, he said, to rid them of my presence, but claimed instead the right to bed a girl. He was unpleasant. And these farmers, they agreed. He'd have her should he want her, and put some poor lass up to it, and they called me a monster. And when he'd had enough of her, he went to Sheffield town and bought some armour made of steel. He looked a proper clown. And had this knight proposed to fight me, aye, I've got my pride cock. I'd have at least agreed to feast no more upon their livestock. But no, this sneaky little sword, it pains me now to tell, instead of honest combat, he ambushed me from a well. Though I'd been taken by surprise, I fought him hell for leather, until he hit below the belt and kicked me in the nethers. All dragons have a secret spot where men can bring them low, and mine's embarrassingly placed. He kicked it, now you know. So by this rascal's lucky kick, here's something you can think on. The dragons of South Yorkshire were all driven to extinction.
Brilliant. I love that. That's very good.
It's very silly.
Oh, it's no, that's good. I love it.
And there's 98 to go.
At least you're 2 in. I remember when you hit like about 75 last time, you're like, What now? What?
I did poems about the pandemic last year, and I was just depressed by about 70. I was like, nothing's happening
5 or 6
except people are
songs.
dying, and I've written a lot of poems about that now.
Try singing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, James. I banned James's proposed playlist. I had to steer him away from the Leonard Cohen section. Like, no, back towards the light. Back towards the light, James. It's a fun occasion.
If you may forgive me, Jer knows, but I have an author mother, and I've struggled with being forced to proofread many of her books, and have developed a liking of elegant language. And this is not mine, but I saw this the other day, and I'm going to share, because when you're talking about rambunctious and daring rhymes, there was a young lad from Cork who got limericks and haikus confused. For the poetical OCD, it just derails me every time. Sorry,
I like that, and I was also slightly worried about where it was going.
Yes.
Very slightly. And now, if Maureen is ready, I think it would be absolutely lovely to hear. I'm really looking forward to this. Just 1 second, Maureen. I'm sorry. Unmute.
Just unmuted. I'm trying to unmute anyway.
It's all
Yeah,
good.
Working.
Perfect.
Okay. If you don't mind, I want to tell you the little story behind this. I am a priestess of the goddess Brigid, or Breed, or however you pronounce it. And I wrote a poem in her honor. And when I finished writing it, I heard a melody in my head. And I realized that the poem wanted to be a song. So I ended up taking, if they fit the melody, and they did perfectly. So if it's okay with you, my reading of some of my writing is going to be singing the song that I wrote for the goddess in her honor, if that's okay. Is there anybody there?
Yes,
Yes.
you know, we're waiting. We're very much so.
Okay. If that's okay, then here we go. Lady of the birds, hark to my soul and sing to me, ring for me, fill my words with power. Holy, strong Queen of Song, breathe. Lady of the birds, light my will and turn to me, burn through me, bless my hands with calling. Holy name, living flame, breathe. Never long to me, grow through me, rock my heart on your waters, healer, cherish me, nourish me, deep in your endless sea, breathe. Poet, smith, and healer, come to me and fill my night with your light. Courage for the long road, flame divine, mother mine, breathe. Bishay.
Oh, that was so beautiful. That was truly beautiful, Maureen. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I just hope everybody realize what an honor it is to have Maureen here and singing for us tonight. Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Thank you so much for letting me do it. And it's so good to see you, Sis.
Oh, you too, darling. I'm going to put you on mute for a sec. The next part that we'll be doing is I'm going to be doing a few readings from the book and from the next book. But in between, if James would like to take us away for a few and just give us a song there.
Sure. Yeah.
That
I just listened to Maureen's story about the poem going to a song. I'm reminded of a Paul Simon song, which was Renee and Georgette Magritte. That song was born from, he was just reading a book, and there was a picture in the middle of the book of Renee and Georgette Magritte and their dog after the war, and that was just the title underneath the picture. And from that, the song just fell out of his head. Renee and Georgette Magritte with their dog after the war. But that's not what I'm here for. But as I was going over the far famed Kerry Mountains, I met with Captain Farrell and his money he was counting. I first produced my pistol and then produced my rapier. Said, stand and deliver, for you are my bold deceiver. With a ring-dum-doo-dum-a-doo, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I counted out his money and it made a pretty penny. I put it in me pocket and I brought it home to Jenny. She said she swore that she would never deceive me, but the devil take the woman, for they never can be easy. With a ring-dum-doo-dum-a-doo, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I went to my chamber for to take a little slumber. I dreamt of gold and jewels, for sure it was no wonder. But Jenny drew me charges and she filled them up with the water. She sent for Captain Farrell to be ready for the slaughter. Ring-dum-dum-a-doo, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. It was early in the morning, just before I rose to travel. The guards were all around me, and likewise Captain Farrell. I first produced me pistol, for she stole away my rapier, but I couldn't shoot the water, so a prisoner I was taken. With a ring-dum-dum-a-doo-dum-dum-dum, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. If anyone can aid me, it's my brother in the army. If I can find his station in Cork or in Killarney, if he'll come and save me, we'll go roving near Kilkenny, and I swear he'll treat me better than Maid Garland, Spartan Jenny. With a ring-dum-dum-a-doo, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Now some men take delight in the drinking and the roving, but others take delight in the gambling and the smoking. But I take my delight in the juice of the barley, and courting pretty Jenny in the morning, bright and early. Speaking of that, tough rhymes. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I just saw that terrible rhyme in there. I suddenly got a flashback.
That was brilliant. Thank you, James. Now, essentially, I'm going to read a little bit from the Body Politic, and I'm going to read a chapter from the next book, and I'll tell you about the next book. So I'm going to just do that there now. The bit I'm going to read from the Body Politic, I've taken it from quite near the front for anyone who hasn't actually got past the first few chapters yet. I don't want to ruin it on you. But essentially, we are at the funeral of Minister Damien Fitzpatrick. He has died, leaving a grieving nation and a very pissed off Caroline Jordan, who has suffered working for him for 4 years, and now he has died and left her without a client in the Irish Parliament. So she's worried about being kicked out of politics. She's worried about her career. She's worried about her company. And she's in the church and they're about to bury him. The venue was the Pro Cathedral. It was a source of historic bitterness that Dublin boasted 2 magnificent ancient cathedrals, both of which had been seized by the Church of Ireland. The Catholic cathedral was far less imposing as a building and was only the acting cathedral. I presumed that Catholics harboured dreams of one day reclaiming one of the real cathedrals back. As a card-carrying atheist, I couldn't care less. A humanist ceremony in an eco-friendly coffin will do me when the time comes. But the interior was beautiful, especially the elaborately carved pews and the mosaic aisle. It was the best option available, so we took it. And now I was inside, I was impressed. I haven't been to Mass voluntarily since childhood, but if I ever relapsed back into religion, I'd haunt this place. All in all, it was going well. The family were troopers. Margaret, of course, did her weeping widow act, but in the circumstances it was appropriate. The boys were genuinely distraught. You had to feel for them. I suppose whatever faults Damien had as a husband, politician, boss, and generally as a human being, he had doted on the boys and their families. I glanced at them. They were all very similar, big, tall, well-built, rugby-loving men with high colour in their cheeks and sandy hair. They were all attractive enough in a generic way, none of them devastatingly handsome and none of them evil-looking. They were all married except the second youngest and best-looking, that was Rory, I recalled. The others, David, Paul, Francis and James, were all attached to nice-looking women who were well-groomed without being glamorous. I wondered how Margaret would have coped with a high-maintenance daughter-in-law, probably by stabbing her through the eye. I hovered a discreet 4 rows back from the family, standing to one side of the aisle. The whole of the Pro Cathedral was filled with the great and the good, but the first 4 rows boasted the greatest and most socially desirable. O'Mahony and the cabinet occupied a row. President MacEngisa and her husband were guests of honour on the family row. Behind them were clustered some of the opinion leaders and movers and shakers of Irish society. Once you left the warm, rich glow of the front rows, you met the second tier. Very rich builders, the horsey set, sitting shoulder to shoulder with the IT people and the media stars. I spied Patrick Gillespie, a man routinely referred to on news programmes as Ireland's leading developer, and by people who had dealings with him as Ireland's most brazen crook. He was accompanied by his wife, a hard-faced woman with bleached blonde hair. They were seated in the middle, which was some achievement. Usually at events like this, the back rows were the social equivalent of the outer regions of Siberia, but today even the worst pews were filled with important names and faces. The eulogy had proved to be tricky. Ideally, from my point of view, the bigger the name, the better. I would have asked Barack Obama to pop over if I could. If only Damien had been from Offaly. However, the family naturally wanted it to be like a son or a close relative. We suggested Liam, but in the end, the eldest of the Fitzpatrick boys, David, took the lectern. He did a standard but sincere eulogy about how lovely his dad was, how much they loved him, and he did it well. Actually, I had to admit it was probably the right choice. Damien's best trait was that he had loved these boys, so it was a nicely sincere touch. And then the renowned writer Darby Little, poet, playwright, general pain in the hole, read one of his excruciating verses dedicated to the memory of a great statesman. As usual, he adopted a dirge-like drone, quite unlike his real accent, the official poetry reading voice that always makes me want to scream. But it went down well with the congregation, most of whom couldn't tell Yeats from a nursery rhyme, but they like to feel they've been exposed to culture every now and then. Finally, Catherine Thompson, the soprano, sang Nearer My God to Thee, which compensated for the previous idiot. Glorious voice. And so the service wound down without any hitch until the final go in peace, and the undertakers moved in to quietly arrange the Fitzpatrick boys as pallbearers. The family exited solemnly, Margaret flanked by daughters-in-law who fussed over her and tended to her with elaborate concern. I slipped out the side entrance and legged it round to the front to oversee the transfer of coffin and mourners into cars, and I found myself almost eye to eye with Detective Sergeant Doyle. Ouch! Sorry. I rubbed my elbow, having cracked it nicely off the wall, trying to avoid cannoning directly into him. Miss. God, he could make good morning sound like an accusation. Detective Sergeant. Two could play at that game, so they could. I went to dodge around him, but he shifted very slightly, barring my way. Over his shoulder, I could see mourners emerging from the church. I had to get out there. Sorry, I have to get around you. I have to go help. He gave me another long, cold-eyed stare and then moved just enough to let me go by. My face went red for no other reason than that weird feeling you get when someone has treated you rudely, but you can't for the life of you see why. Thanks. I put as much sarcasm as possible into that one word and then sped away. Not a moment too soon. I caught one of the daughters-in-law clambering into the lead limousine, and the driver of the third car turned out to be as deaf as a post and not at all sure where the cemetery was. So that's that. Now, if it won't take too long, the sequel is called The Body Count. That's the working title, and it's set in the world of finance. So it's set in a fictional, bears no resemblance to any real bank, I swear, bank called the Bank of Leinster. Honest. And it's just post a few scandals, banking scandals, and a bit of upset with their new things going wrong. And it introduces you to some of the main characters in the book. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it for you now. Marie sighed and looked around her glumly. It was only 11:30 and was already a bloody awful day. Her computer taunted her with the blue screen of death. The paperwork she should have been completing sat untouched on her desk, and the slight ache between her eyes had blossomed into a full-blown hormonal headache. She closed her eyes and tried to look on the bright side. While being a receptionist in the Bank of Leinster headquarters wasn't the height of glamour, not with the outdated dress code and the feudal attitude towards female staff, it was really quite this bad. She'd been lucky to land this temping job, and while she worked hard for her money, it was at least a decent wage. She ran a hand appreciatively over one of the non-regulation silver bangles on her wrist. She kept them hidden as much as possible, as the eagle-eyed HR boss, or Empress Evil, as she liked to call her, would rip them from her shrieking if she saw them. But she couldn't bear to be stripped of every ounce of identity, especially not these. In her real life, the one she was supposed to be living, Marie was still a jewellery designer. In that life, she still had her workshop and her tools and made her living crafting exquisite silver jewellery in a Celtic-inspired manner. In this actual life, thanks to her faithless and feckless soon-to-be ex-husband, she was stuck in this horrible job. Working in the company headquarters of a now notorious bank, where banking scandals and an unprecedented cock-up with their computer systems made... Sorry, this is out of sequence. Sorry, there's a page missing. Made dealing with its incoming calls an exercise in fear and loathing. Nobody noticed that, did they? I think I got away with it. Had not been part of her life plan, but it was money. Money to pay off the debts Declan had landed her with, and money to keep going. It was a job, in a country where jobs were increasingly scarce and was above all temporary, thank Christ, fasting. Her phone pinged. She sneaked it from her pocket and, keeping a careful eye out, she opened her text. Amanda. Oh my fucking God, they're laying off people in Pharmacy Plus. 400 job losses. Her sister Amanda, who now refused to say Declan's name and instead referred to him as the prick, texted her every morning with tidbits of news about the failing economy. She was terrified Marie would rebel against this job, strip the hideous green Bank of Leinster uniform from her back, and run screaming through Leafy Balls Bridge. Amanda thought these updates about job hell and financial misery would keep her focused on how lucky she was to be earning. It was her way of helping. Marie didn't need the reminder she had a drawer full of bills and final demands. The ominous click-click of heels. Regulation 1.5-inch black leather on the marbled floor brought her back to reality and the reception desk. She started to shuffle papers before glancing up to meet the steely blue eyes of Monica Delahunt, technically her direct supervisor, also known as the Evil Empress. Monica cast an expert eye over Marie's ensemble and snapped, "Your hair is untidy. Ponytail, black bobbin. How many times have I to tell you this?" Marie smiled and said politely, "Sorry, Miss Delahunt," and waited. She knew that Monica only wanted to see her squirm, so she took a perverse pleasure in not showing 1 ounce of the annoyance she felt. True to form, Monica's eyes raked over her appearance, trying to find some other point of contention. She tutted on general principles, but said, "Well, make sure you fix it on your break." She stared around the foyer. "Where's Thomas?" Thomas was the security guard, 6'2" of Polish muscle, and supposed to be there by the front door to herd off stray customers from the premises. Headquarters, as Monica liked to remind them, was not a customer-facing building, which meant no one the bank shafted was actually meant to arrive out there demanding justice. However, every so often, someone would be put on hold 1 time too many, hop in their car, drive to Balls Bridge, and demand to talk to a human being. Then Thomas was supposed to gently persuade them to leave and discreetly note down their car registration. Marie sighed. Thomas had gone on break 20 minutes before, something Monica should know well. She supposed making her state the bloody obvious was part of the woman's plan to drive her completely insane. Break. He's gone on his break. She pointed at the clock on the wall and sighed. 11:30 to 12, Miss Delahunty. Monica shook her head. Nonsense. It's 10 past 12 now. Monica said, "It's 10 to 12. The clock says 10 to 12. The clock was an ancient timepiece built into the wall of the lobby when the building first went up in the 1890s. It was renowned for its timekeeping. The legend was all the clocks in the company were set by it. Once upon a time, before digital clocks and computers, this was true. Now, only headquarters went by the old clock, but it was as precise as it had ever been, and questioning it was nearly heretical." Monica stared in confusion and then, with an effort, shrugged it off. Well, he's cutting it fine." Marie rolled her eyes. "A poxy half-hour for lunch and they begrudge you taking it." "Was there anything else, Miss Delahunty?" "No. Well, yes, of course. What I actually came down was to check on room 4. There were 4 conference rooms off the foyer, used for the rare occasions when clients couldn't be fobbed off without a face-to-face, or the more frequent occasions when team leaders needed to bawl out their teams for utter incompetence. They were spacious, soundproofed, and equipped with tea and coffee making, so you didn't have to get up and pause when you're bullshitting or berating people. Marie said, "Room 4 is empty." "That can't be right," said Miss Delahunty. "I tried it earlier and it was locked." It was fairly common for management to lock the door if they were dealing with something very confidential or very embarrassing, probably against half a dozen EU workers' rights regulations, but the bank didn't seem to care. Managers also locked it because Monica was known to be a snoop and a tattletale. She often accidentally walked into meetings. Marie checked again because her computer had been dead all morning. All the information usually contained on a spreadsheet had been written out by hand. If there was one thing she could do, it was pay attention to detail. She rarely forgot a task or a phone number, and she never wrote down the wrong information because she always double-checked. No, Marie said firmly. Officially, room 4 is free. If anyone is using it, they didn't run it past me. But the door is locked, Monica complained. Marie shrugged. I don't know about that. I can only tell you no one booked it. Click, 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 went Ms. Delahunt's heels over the floor to the conference room. She shook the handle aggressively. Locked, she said triumphantly. What is wrong? Thomas appeared from behind the desk, trying to hide the cup of coffee he'd sneaked from the canteen. Eating and drinking on duty were strictly forbidden for either security or reception staff. Marie took the cup from him with a smooth movement and placed it in her desk drawer. Thomas mouthed, thanks, and kept going to Monica Delahunt's side. Is there a problem, Miss Delahunt? He asked politely. Marie caught Monica glancing surreptitiously at the foyer clock and smiled to herself. The old cow didn't give up easy, but Thomas was back with 4 minutes to spare. Why is this room locked? Her tone suggested it was actually their fault. It is supposed to be free and I need to use it. I don't see why you people can't keep to a simple system and write these things down correctly. Marie flushed angrily, but managed to keep her voice level. I do write them down correctly, Miss Delahunt. No one booked the room. But who's in there then? I don't know. I didn't see anyone go in there all morning. Mr. Clark has room 1 booked for an hour this morning. Miss Petroni had room 3 for the team leader briefing. That's it. Did anyone come in while I was on break? Thomas shook his head. No. While you were gone, no one went in or came out. A few of the girls from customer service went out after 10:30 and were back inside by 9:45. Smoking, he mimicked the action disdainfully, around the corner of the building. The smell of their clothes when they came in. Why do they do that? Marie grinned. Don't mind that now, Thomas. What was that it? She picked up the phone, curious now. That means whoever is in there has been there since before 8. She rang around. Hi, it's Marie here on reception. Who's that? Hi, can you do me a favor? Ask up there and see if anyone was using room 4. No? No one? Thanks. She shook her head at Monica and dialed another number. Hi, how are you? Yeah, us too. Lacey, can you do me a favor, please? Can you check and see if anyone in mortgages or corporate is using room 4? No. Okay. She shook her head at her colleagues. There's only Clark and Petroni booked in that anyone knows of, and Mr. Clark is meeting Jordan PR. Jordan Public Relations was the up-and-coming relations firm in the city, thanks to impeccable contacts and the owner's reputation for fearlessness. There was no way Clark would be meeting them in either of the small rooms. Only the big conference room with the big mahogany table and the oil paintings of long-dead Bank of Leinster officials would do for Ms. Caroline Jordan and her team. Marie knew, without having to second-guess herself, exactly who was using each room. God above, Monica was a pain in the hole. She came out round the reception desk, searching through a bunch of emergency keys that lived in the back of her drawer. There must be some explanation. Someone must have locked the door by accident. She located the right key and said, now, Miss Delahunt, I'll open it up for you in just a jiffy. Thomas grinned at her behind Monica's back, but made no move towards his post. He was as curious now as Marie was, both as to why the room should be locked and why Monica was throwing such a hissy fit over it. Marie tried to catch his eye to tell him, don't push your luck, go back, but he wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring over her shoulder at someone approaching the front entrance. As HQ wasn't, in corporate speak, customer facing, it could only mean that the VIP guests were arriving. Shite, Monica muttered and grabbed the keys from Marie. She jammed the key into the lock and turned it, pushing open the heavy door wide, just as a tall, athletic-looking blonde, flanked by a brunette and a tall, thin man with dark hair, started across the marbled entrance towards them. As they approached, Marie fixed her bright receptionist smile on her face and stepped forward to greet them, as Thomas tried to look security conscious. It was a good effort, but the effect was somewhat spoiled by Monica Delahunt screaming at the top of her lungs. Marie saw the tall blonde, whom she recognised as Caroline Jordan from the gossip pages of the Evening Herald, stop dead, her face paling visibly. Jordan put out a hand to the other woman and stopped her from stepping forward, shielding her from a view of the room. The tall man looked sick. Monica was still screaming. Thomas swore volubly, so she turned to see what was upsetting everyone. Frank Clark's corpse hung from the small chandelier in the centre of the room, a miniature version of the large ones that shimmered over their head in the marbled foyer. His two wrists were bound together, and he hung from them from the central stem of the light. His neck was a slash of bright red, a bloom of red spread over his shirt front and across the cream carpet beneath. We can rule out suicide then, Marie thought, just as she realised she felt faint. Now, if you're all still awake, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. I know that was actually longer in the reading than I thought, but thank you very much for staying with it. And now,
do you want to take questions, Chair?
Yeah, I think that's probably, I know there's a few questions in the Q&A, and I think some people ask questions on the chat. So I'm going to look at the ones in Q&A, if you can have a look at the ones on chat.
I think the ones in chat are generally covered by the ones in Q&A, but I'll have another go.
Okay, grand. Edda. Hi, Edda. Hi. Edda might be.
Hi.
Hi. Of all the characters, Paula was the easiest to like. Did you base her on anyone? I felt she was the perfect best friend. Paula has turned out to be everybody's favourite character. Everyone who's spoken goes, I love Paula. I really love Paula. Everyone wants a Paula. I have a Paula called Paula. Paula is based on a mixture of a few people. She's based on really good friends that I have. She's based on my best friend Emer, and she's based on Gina, and she's based on some of my wagons, and you know who they are, Edda. And she is mainly, however, based on my sister-in-law called Paula, who is married to a very nice man called Stephen. So I didn't go too far to find those two characters. And Paula is that person. Everyone should have one in their life, the person you can rely on, who's lovely, who's really good fun, and is just there for you all the time. So yeah, she is very closely based on a few people. And then we have Olga. Hi Olga, was just wondering how long ago you started the whole writing process, and how did you manage to keep it secret for so long? I've written poetry since before I could actually write poetry. You can ask, well, my parents, you can ask anyone who knew me as a child. I was a horribly precocious poetry writing child who occasionally read their poetry to people, whether they wanted it or not. I have often done that. I've often written poetry. I have not written books per se, and I think it's really, I've written short stories and I've had short stories published, but it's really only in the last maybe 5 or 10 years that I've actually sat down and had the discipline to write a book. So that's that one. Aisha, hi Aisha again. How did you decide to make your main protagonist a PR girl? And also male, hi, you've said that as well, pretty much why a political PR person. My postgrad was in advertising and media studies, and I worked in advertising. But when I was doing that postgrad, our PR lecturer was a very nice woman. Now, she was no Caroline Jordan. She was a very respectful, nice, very non-sweary, non-drinking person. But she had years of experience working in politics and PR. And I always found that very interesting. I found her the most interesting of that genre. And when I worked in advertising, we actually did a lot of posters and a lot of stuff for political parties. So it was there in the background. It's an area I knew a bit about, and it was I didn't want her to have a very heavy job or but I wanted it to be a job that got her into places and doing different things. And I just thought it was an interesting area to be in and not an overdone area. So that was pretty much the reasoning. I could write about it. That was it. Hi, Susan. Grantham, hello to Grantham, and you must show Grantham the recording so he can hear James play the uke, because I happen to know that he's a great, James Grantham, Susan's son, is a great little uke player in America. He's coming along very well, so he'd enjoy hearing you. How long it took to write the whole book? Shamefully long. Shamefully. I wrote it for NaNoWriMo years ago, and then I threw it, I just left it, didn't go near it. Then I made this big thing, I'm going to write that and finish it. And I'd say I spent about 6 weeks in it and just stopped. And then lockdown last year, I went, really, this is shameful. Like, I'd better come out of this year with something. I should have to do something. And I went back and I did it. So it's taken a long time, up and down. But that's... In disciplined writing, it probably took about a year. In really, really lazy writing, it's probably taken about 5 years. So
I was going to say 7.
You're going to throw me under the bus. Tell Grantham my husband says 7 and has thrown me under the bus. Apparently it's 7 years of being lazy. So there we go. Just to clear that up, 7. Now I don't want to miss ones as I go. Sorry. Look. Evelyn, hi. Did I picture people I know to get my characters fleshed out? To a degree, yeah. I don't think any one character is a single person that I know. There's elements of a lot of people in each character, but definitely, I mean, I would say, I know they say always write about what you know, and I don't think you have to write about situations that you know, but I do think you need to write about personalities that you know and try to make them as real as possible. So a lot of the people there, actually some of the exchanges in the book, I mean, I have had people say things to me and I have responded sharply to them, and some of those would make their way into Caroline's mouth, you know. So yeah, there's a bit based on people and personalities that I've met. If you could get anyone to narrate the audiobook, who would you choose? Mark will do it.
Who would you pick, though?
I don't know. I actually find that hard to imagine. I don't know.
Adele.
Oh, she'd be brilliant. Actually, Edda, who would you like to hear? Who would you like to hear?
Oh, that's a really tough question. It's gonna.
You asked me and made me answer it.
Well, you said you wanted questions. I didn't volunteer for answers. I don't know. It's going to have to be someone with a really, really good Dublin accent, though, doesn't it?
It does. They have to be Irish, I think.
Oh, yeah. But Dublin specifically.
There's some very good female comedians. I'd like a woman to narrate it, like, but or I would take Panty Bliss. Oh my God, that would be so much funny. I would like definitely. I would just go, yes, please.
Let's set it up. Let's do it.
But Caitlin Moran, or the name eludes me, but she's very, very good. She was the mother in Moon Boy, if anyone can remember that. She was someone like that. Someone with a bit of snap and a bit of fun to them would be brilliant. And then I just have to actually name check Vicky O'Mahony, who isn't asking questions but just wants to be here. Hiya, Vic. No.
You go down.
That was one of my children. Hi, Mail Now. Another question is our part of it. I was impressed with the whole package of your book, though I haven't yet encountered your ending. But the plotting, the setting, the characters, the dialogue, the word-by-word writing as it all unfurls. I wondered how you had managed all this so well in the first novel. Well, thank you very much. If I'd realised it was such a compliment at the end, I'd have read it slower. Well, thank you. I think probably, to be honest with you, it's because it was written and rewritten and rewritten. It's because it did take the time to do it. I learned so much doing it, and the difference between the first kind of draft cobbled together and the end draft over those years is immense. And I think personal experience of like talking to people and learning more, like I would say that my feminism has deepened in the last 10 years and my understanding of things has deepened. And I think being 50 odd and having that experience, going back and reading something lighthearted that you wrote and going, I'm taking these bits out. That's a joke and it's funny, but it's at someone's expense. And actually putting more effort into making it real rather than just making it slapstick and snappy and funny. I think it's time and putting that bit of effort in that has helped. And thank you so much for that compliment. And Rowan, thank you so much. 2 questions. When it comes to Caroline Jordan, what came first, the character or the voice? How did you get into the headspace to form their personality and quirks and keep track of them? And how did you develop the voice? Caroline, there's an old saying that when you're writing poetry, the first line of poetry nearly comes into your mind unbidden, or the central line, the hook that you would hang everything on. And yes, that's what I'm talking about. I firmly believe that. Like I would be walking down the road and things that I don't even realize that I have been thinking about or formulating at the back of my head, and that first line just comes in and you stop and you go, that's the poem I'm writing. That's what I'm writing about. It was a bit like that with Caroline. She lived somewhere in the back of my brain for a very long time. She's in there. I actually think there's a part of me wants to be Caroline. It's what I would have liked to be like. I would have loved to be that brave. I would have loved to be that fearless. I would have loved to be that capable and confident. And I think when I sat down to write, I just, that part of me just, I went, yeah, I'll let her out. You know, she can live on the pages. And she came out fully formed. Of all the characters, she's the one that needed like the least refining because she was the one I was most acquainted with already, guys. I knew who she was. And how did you develop the voice? Rewrite, rewrite, rewrite. Then let someone else read it. Let them tell you everything they hate about it and then rewrite it again. There's no shortcut. You just have to do it. And what was your process for world building and verisimilitude, truth, and the details of the world of President MacAngus? Now, my loving husband has given it as of his opinion that I need to flesh the world out a bit more. And I have this thing of I loathe reading pointless descriptions, so I loathe writing it. I have a tendency to sort of assume you know what I'm talking about, and that's it. And this is a world I've been interested in seeing how Americans read the book. Because a lot of people that have been reading the book that are American or English or UK, like will say they followed it, they understood it. They didn't really need, you know, a lot of information to get what was happening. And I think that sometimes keeping the world simple and not making it too set in one place can make it a little more universal for people. So if they're, you know, if from their country, they kind of project a little bit of their own world onto it. In the second book, though, I am going to take on board what some people have said, and there will be a little bit more world building. I think we could stand to learn a little bit more about the Dublin that is, you know, the Dublin I know and love, and you know the world she lives in. But for the first one, it's kind of 50-50. I think I just wrote it exactly as we know, like President MacAngus is obviously President MacAleese, you know what I mean? And just put in a few things that are landmarks. Explain a little bit about Dáil Éireann and the you know the history of Leinster House, and then pretty much let people fill the blanks in themselves. The second one will be a little bit more rooted in the world. Is there a sentence that you really wanted to include in the book? Actually, there's probably a couple. Her exchange, she has an exchange with DS Draw, without giving away spoilers, but there's a few kind of comments to pass back and forward there, and she reminisces a little bit about a childhood nun that used to terrify everybody. And there's a couple of lines in there that I definitely wanted to use, yeah. So, and there's a few funny things that have been said to me over the years that I would have gone, yeah, and like you just remember them, the nice little banter, and they go into the thing. I think probably though, into every life a little rain must fall. I don't know why, but I was determined to start with that. So there you go. That's it, I think, is it? Hi, Janet. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's lovely. Oh, Deirdre O'Kane. Thank you, Aisha. Yes, Deirdre O'Kane for the audiobook. That answers that question, everybody. Deirdre O'Kane. So
Absolutely.
when she comes knocking, I'll let her do it then. That's that one. Guys, I think that's everything.
I'm reminded of a story from Stephen Fry, who was taken on board to do the first audiobook of the Harry Potter series. And he tells this story in a few of his lectures and his talks, but he says he was doing the audiobook and there was a phrase, Harry pocketed it. Pocketed it. And Stephen Fry could not say it. Pocketed it. Pocketed it. And eventually, because he'd been talking to the Rowling and stuff, he rang her and said, listen, I'm having a real difficult time saying pocketed it. Can I just say in the pocket? And she was adamant that she wanted the audiobook to be an exact replica of the written book so people could hear it and see it. And so not only did she insist on that phrase being pronounced properly, she wrote it into all of the other books. Just to mess with Stephen Fry.
Yep.
I thought...
As she is a wagon.
Nice trick, yeah.
Now, there are some little prize giveaways. So, out of the people who ask questions, Mark is just going to randomly go like down the line. Is there anyone out there who wants to be included actually in the in the giveaways? If you are, raise your hand. If you haven't asked a question, you want to be stuck in there, raise your hand.
Maureen's had her hand raised for a while.
Maureen has had her hand raised for a while.
Oh, sorry, Maureen.
I have to unmute. There we go. Did I unmute? I was really interested in everything everyone else said, but I just wanted to give a very strong compliment to Jer because I have been trying for over 12 years to write some murder mysteries, and I have 8 unfinished books that never got there. And they're just sitting on my computer, and I kind of go back and try to mess with them. And Geraldine, I wanted to tell you that you have done one thing that I have never been able to do. That first chapter laid out several little bits and pieces of hints that are going to be clues and things we want to follow. But in the middle of all that, your creation of your main character was totally positive and totally understandable. You didn't get the story so confused because you were back and forth between talking about or from or with the character and leaving a clue. You managed to know how to do each of those things perfectly by itself, and you did the whole thing together. And to me, that's the first chapter of the kind of a mystery I've been reading all my life, and I just cannot wait to get a hold of the rest of the book and find out what the heck really happened, because you have got me really wondering.
Oh, thank you so much. Again, thank you for being here, Maureen. Really, really appreciate it. I know it was hell for you to get it online tonight.
I'm very fortunate to be permitted to do this.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So Susan and Vicky and Grant. So basically, just throw everyone into the mix of and pick out 2 names are going to get you can choose between a signed copy of the book, or if you already have that, the first signed copies of the Body Count when it comes out. So you can pick. You can PM us or DM us or wherever, connect to us. There will be the signed copies of the book. There will be a pen. There will be postcards and stationery, poster, and for one of 3 winners will get the chance to create a character, and they will have to tell me now who they want to nominate. They have to pick 3 characteristics for them, and let's see what they can come up with. So just
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mark proving he can count.
I can. Sorry, I lost count. 15 is Granny. Will I go again?
Granny, go again, because she's going to get one anyway, whether she likes it or not. That's
Right.
my mother. She is contractually obliged to read everything I write.
Okay, 10. Right. Is Jenna McGowan.
Jenna McGagan?
Yep.
Jenna? Hi, Jenna, can you hear us?
Oh, there. I'm in my car, so I was
That's okay, Jenna. You have won a Merck package. You have won the poster, book, postcard, pen package, and you can choose between a copy of this book or a copy of the next book. So I can get that off you on Facebook anyway. Don't worry.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Now, who's next?
Okay, next we had 7 is Emer Ferns.
Eber.
Hi.
Hiya. So you've won a Merck package, Eber. How lucky do you feel right now?
I'm embarrassed.
Can you hear me, Eber?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You've already got a signed copy of this book. Do you want a
I'll
signed
take
copy?
a signed copy of the next book. Thank you very much. Delivered personally by hand by the author.
We'll try and be in this time. Okay. And now the next person will win the Merck and the.
Here, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jesus Christ. I'm picking numbers.
No,
and
okay, if
correct. It's Vicky. It's Vicky O'Mahony.
Oh, hi,
Hello,
Vicky.
hear me?
I can hear you.
Hang on.
Okay,
Hang on.
so that everyone has context here. If you ever said, I'm going to let someone name a character in my next novel and give them 3 desired characteristics that they have to work in, and someone said, but Vicky's in the list, you go, Jesus, not Vicky. Jesus knows what she'll. Hi, Vicky. Guess what you've won?
Can you hear me? You can hear me.
I can
Yes.
hear you.
Right, but you can't see me. Is that kind of deliberate?
No, you have to press your video. Are
sorry.
you on Zoom?
I am. Hang on.
You should have a little video camera, and you should click on that.
You can't see it. Ah,
Okay,
Screen.
bottom
Anyway.
left hand.
bottom left hand. I see mute. I see chats. Hang on. I
Do you
see
see
it
the-
right
Do you see a
hand.
little video camera?
I don't see the video
Are
camera.
you on your mobile device or a computer?
I'm on a mobile device.
Tap the screen. Look at the screen
Yeah.
and tap the screen. The picture of the camera should appear.
Oh, I'm not seeing.
We may do without your beautiful face, Vicky.
Oh, okay.
Keep trying.
Lily has just put in the
Anyway,
attendees
hello
can't turn
everybody.
on video.
Hello, everybody. Just as Ger talked about context, myself, Ger, and another friend of ours, and Emer, were collectively known as the Mobile
Party unit. Yes, we were.
in town, zoomed up our eyeballs, normally liquor, Dr. Eyeballs, but Zoomed this evening. And I have to say, it's just feckin' brilliant. I'm just so delighted. This woman, I used to buy books and I'd hand them to Ger and I'd give her about 2 hours and she'd have the book read. And I'd kind of come in then with like some drink and I'd kind of sit in the corner and I'd, you know, drinks for Ger, drinks for me. And I go, right, so tell me what happened. And all I wanted to hear the story from somebody who could tell a fucking good story. And that was always Ger Byrne. And I'm just like, I'm fucking thrilled. Sorry about the cursing, everybody. I'm so delighted. Your characters are brilliant. I was just, you called out names there in a row and I went, I recognize that row of people. Which I will not describe, but I was like, yeah. I know that row of people. I know what was going on. And it's just brilliant. I'm so absolutely thrilled for you.
Well,
and I'll take a signed copy of a kitchen roll. I don't care what you give me.
Well, you have to now decide, and you'll have to let us know. You have to name a character. You can name it after yourself or somebody else. And you have to give 3 facts about them. It could be 3 characteristics.
Right. I'm going to name a character. We both know this guy. Male, prick, boss, lecherous, shoeless.
No.
I would like draw little doodles of what happened that day and I would just fax them over to you at the days of facts.
Oh.
This
That's
is what he's.
Back we go. The days of faxing. Yes.
No, you have to include graphics. Sorry, you're gonna have to put in some cartoon. It can't just be words. There are too many pictures. There's too much. Yeah. I'll draw the stuff. Yeah. Okay.
That's okay. You can do that job. We'll have that. We'll have a little section in the back for you. That will be just you drawing diagrams. We were talking about the fear of performing earlier, and O'Mahony there can tell you, back in the day, we used to sing a regular gig in a pub down in Waterford.
We did.
On the Cork Road in Waterford. Yeah. And there was Vicky and myself and a very nice girl called Mary Power.
Yep. Well done.
I know. With my memory, that is right.
Very good.
The only way that I actually managed to get through that was by being very, very drunk. So to prepare, other people would be like la 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 la, and I would be like glug 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 glug, and literally 3 vodkas in, I'm ready to perform. That was great. Without alcohol, no, this was not happening in any way, shape, or form. So that's the terror of performing. This woman has seen this in live in action. So
Mark, any chance you have 3 vodkas on you?
There's 3 vodkas in me.
Hey,
lads, you have to get a song out of Ger Byrne, honestly.
No, that's not.
To be a night. Yeah.
I'm muting you. Okay, guys, that's
what
it.
you wouldn't give to have that power in real life.
Oh.
I'm going to mute Vicky. Boom. Ding.
I think I frequently did. Vicky, shut up. Shut up. Guys, I've had a blast. You have stuck with it for an hour and a half, which is way over what we had intended to go. You've listened to me waffle on. You have had brilliant panelists, though, to compensate. You have had Maureen and that beautiful, beautiful song. You have had Says, who is brilliant and genius and made everybody just love the Dragon Poet. That was brilliant. You have had James O'Farrell, who has lifted our spirits with music and made the first 10 minutes of this less than the chaotic hell it could have been. So well done to you, James. That was an amazing achievement. And thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. There will be more books. I would hope the next time we do this, I will be handing you actual drink somewhere, and those who aren't present will be on Zoom watching us. So hopefully the next time will be more like that. Goodbye. Be safe. Raise your glasses, have some cheer. Thank you all so much. James is going to play us out, so stick around for a few minutes. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a red-hot hoochie coocher. She was the roughest, toughest frail, but Minnie had a heart as big as a whale. Hidey, 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 hi. Hody, 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 ho. Heedy, 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 hee. Hidey, 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 ho. She messed around with a bloke named Smokey. She loved him though he was dokey. She took it down to Chinatown and showed her how to kick the gong around. Hidey, 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 hi. Hody, 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 ho. Heedy, 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 hee. Hidey, 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 ho. She had a dream about the king of Sweden. He gave her things that she was needing. He gave her a home built with gold and steel, a diamond car with the platinum wheel. Hidey, 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 hi.
Hidey, 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 hi.
Hody, 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 ho. Skiddly boo, skiddly boo, skiddly boo. Hidey, 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 ho. He gave her a townhouse and his racing horses. Each week he ate worth a dozen courses. She had $1 million worth of nickels and dimes. She sat around and counted them 1,000,000 times. Hidey, 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 hi.
Hidey, hidey, hidey,
Hidey, hidey, hidey.
Hody, hody, ho.
Hooda, 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 hooda.
Heedy, 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 hee.
Hidey, hidey, hidey.
Hidey, 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 ho.
Hidey, 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 ho.
Oh, me, oh, me, oh, me. Absolutely contains my least favorite chord change, the E minor and the B7. Same chord, down one. I hate it, but I like the song.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting me have a shot at doing this. Appreciate that.
You were brilliant.
Would you like
Love
another
it.
song before I go? A little sweet and romantic.
Yes.
Okay.
Knock it out there.
And this will tie into the performance anxiety, not that performance anxiety, but the other performance anxiety, the less important performance anxiety.
All
Stage
right.
performance.
All right. Okay.
I'm the reluctant soloist, and I do perform, and I go to the opening of an envelope at this stage, but I still am shy. I'm still self-conscious about when I do it, and when I make a mistake in that, I've been taught to plow straight through. But overcoming my fear of performance was the big step, and it came to my long-suffering third wife. It was her fault that I overcame that. What was happening was that she had bought me my ukulele, my first ukulele, and I had spent time learning and playing, and she was very supportive, as was everybody. But I was still very shy, but I decided that I would overcome my performance anxiety, my fear. And I was pre-lockdown, many years ago. I was working from home. She was going off to work, and I was sitting at home, and I was practicing the ukulele. And what I was doing is I was practicing this song. And I recorded it on Valentine's Day 3 years ago, and I posted it on her Facebook page after she went to work. So she can't log into social media while at work. So for half of the day, all of her friends can see this and hear this song, and she didn't know. So she comes home and her phone's blown up with all this sort of stuff. But I had enough time to work on the song and overcome my fear. And once I started recording and putting myself out there, I found that I've never had a negative audience, never, and I've been bad. I've deserved negativity, but audiences are very positive. So don't let your fear of the audience's reaction dictate your performance or be your restriction. Overcome that fear, and as I did for my long-suffering third wife. This was the song that I recorded for her. Didn't write it, but recorded it for her. Hold me close and hold me fast, this magic spell you cast. This is La Vie en Rose. When you kiss me heaven's high, and though I close my eyes, I see La Vie en Rose. When you press me to your heart, I'm in a world apart, a world where roses bloom. And when you speak, angels sing from above, everyday words seem to turn into love songs. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be la vie en Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for coming along.
James, some people are asking about your link. If they look for you, the reluctant...
On YouTube as the Reluctant Soloist, they should find me.
On YouTube. I did that today actually, and you came straight up, so that should be the easiest way to do it. Because they can't click on the link I was showing.
I have an eclectic sense of humor, and some of the songs on my YouTube page are... I like Tom Lehrer and other comedians, so there are some funny and some slightly risque songs on there, but go for it. Have fun. Have fun with the ukulele. Have fun with the world. Why not? We're all nothing else to do. We're this side of the grass. Let's go for it.
Completely agree. That's the only thing worth doing. Lads, go forth. Oh.
I forgot there's one other thing. Because it was mentioned at the very start, I went off. Mark, you were saying you wanted me to do 5'2". Because what I did was I've actually rushed out and got your old ukulele, so it's the same size as you, so it's so 5'2". There you go, Mark. That was for you and all of your relatives who are watching, and will have this recorded
forever.
Forever.
Nice
guys. We're going to end it there. Thank you all so much again and again and again and again. Thank you. And I hope you had a blast, but we have had a great time here. Love you all. Thank you.
Love you, Karen. Love you, Mark.
See you, missus.
Thank you to the new people who joined in, who just bought the book randomly. Thank you to the old friends who turned up. Thank you to you all. And bye, I think. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.